The year was 2432. Earth had changed. Tall buildings touched the sky, flying cars moved between cities, and humans now lived on different planets. But some parts of the galaxy were still simple. One such place was New Avalon, a quiet colony on the edge of the known universe. In this small colony lived a young woman named Mira Lane. Mira was 24, smart, kind, and worked as a junior engineer. She repaired water systems and solar panels for her colony. She didn't have much money, but she had dreams of seeing Earth, of touching the stars, and maybe, one day, doing something great. One evening, after a long day of fixing a broken turbine, she received a strange message on her data tablet. The message was clean, formal, and unexpected. Dear Miss Mira Lane, I have been following your engineering reports from New Avalon. Your designs show intelligence, compassion, and creativity. I would like to speak with you if you allow it. Darren Vale. She almost deleted it, thinking it was spam. But something about the name sounded familiar. Later that night, Mira searched the name. Her eyes widened. Darren Vale, the once famous star pilot who became a billionaire after building deep space mining ships. Years ago, he had suffered a serious accident during an asteroid mission. He had survived, but the explosion had damaged his spine. Since then, he lived in a high-tech wheelchair, rarely seen in public. Why would someone like him want to talk to her? Curious, she replied. In the weeks that followed, Mira and Darren spoke often through hologram calls. He was polite and thoughtful. He asked about her life, her work, her colony. He never bragged about his wealth. He laughed softly, listened closely, and treated her like an equal. Slowly, Mira began to enjoy these talks. Then she started waiting for them. Darren showed her his home, a beautiful place on Earth surrounded by forests and advanced machines. His wheelchair had glowing wheels and floated above the floor. Despite his condition, he looked strong and alert. His eyes were sharp, full of life. I used to fly ships, he said one night. Now I fly ideas. Mira smiled. And I fix water pumps. Guess we both fly something. They both laughed. Weeks turned into months. One day, during a quiet call, Darren looked serious. Mira, he said, I know this may sound strange, but I've never met anyone like you. You're honest, brave, and real. I don't want to just talk through screens anymore. I want to meet you. Mira's heart beat faster. You want me to visit Earth? Yes, he said. More than that. I want to ask you something important. She held her breath. He continued, would you consider becoming my wife? Mira stared at the screen. Her mind raced. Marriage? To a man she had never met in person? To a disabled millionaire from Earth? It sounded unreal. But her heart reminded her of the many calls, the long talks, the kindness he always showed. Are you sure? She asked softly. I've never been more sure, he said. She looked down. She had never thought about marriage, not like this. But something deep inside told her it was the right step. I'll come to Earth, she said. We'll see what happens. A month later, Mira stood at the spaceport with a small bag and big thoughts. The colony gave her a warm send-off. Her parents cried. Her friends cheered. She boarded the interstellar ship with hope in her heart. The journey to Earth took 3 days through light tunnels. When she arrived, a silver hovercar waited for her. The driver, a silent AI, welcomed her and took her through green landscapes and glowing cities. When she reached the estate, she gasped. The house looked like a palace made of glass and steel. Tall towers touched the clouds, and floating lights danced above the gardens. She stepped out and walked up the wide steps. The doors opened on their own. Inside, soft music played. The walls changed colors with her movement. A group of small cleaning drones buzzed quietly along the floor. Then, she saw him. Darren sat at the center of a large hall in his floating wheelchair, wearing a dark suit with silver edges. He looked just like his hollow image, but more real, more alive. He smiled. "You're even more beautiful in person." Mira blushed. "And you're taller than I thought." He laughed. It was a warm, real sound. They sat and talked for hours. Darren showed her on the estate the labs, the gardens, the star observatory. He talked about stars, inventions, music, and old Earth stories. But one thing stood out to Mira. Every time he thought she wasn't looking, he seemed to move a little differently. Once, she saw him stand just for a second before quickly sitting again. Another time, he dropped a glass, and before it hit the ground, he caught it faster than any machine. Strange. But she said nothing. That night, in her guest room, she looked out at the stars and whispered to herself, "He's kind. That's what matters." Still, a small voice inside her asked, "What is he hiding?" The next day, wedding preparations began. Tailors measured her. AI chefs asked her favorite foods. Darren had planned everything. Mira was touched but also confused. How could he be so sure? He gave her a small gift, a silver necklace with a star-shaped gem. "When you wear this," he said, "you'll always know where home is." She thanked him, smiling. But behind the smile, her thoughts swirled. Darren was perfect. Too perfect. And though he said he was disabled, he moved like someone with secrets. Still, she told herself, he chose me. That must mean something. As the wedding day came closer, Mira prepared her heart, but deep down, she felt it. A surprise was waiting, something big, and nothing would ever be the same again. Mira woke early in the morning. The air inside the estate was fresh and smelled like flowers. The glass walls of her room slowly faded from dark to clear as the artificial sun rose over the garden outside. Birds flew over the trees, even though Mira knew they were made by machines. Still, they looked real. They sounded real. She got dressed and went down to the main hall. Darren was already there, sitting in his floating chair near the long breakfast table. He greeted her with a smile. "Good morning," he said. "I hope you slept well." "I did," Mira replied, sitting across from him. "Your estate is beautiful." "It feels like a dream. I built it with care," he said. "But dreams are only good if you have someone to share them with." His words were warm and his voice calm. Mira smiled, but her mind held quiet questions. They ate together. The food was perfect. It was made by silent kitchen drones, but everything tasted like it came from a real farm. Darren watched her closely, but not in a strange way. It felt like he truly cared. After breakfast, he showed her the estate's west wing. There were rooms full of books, old earth paintings, and musical instruments. There was a lab with glowing blue tanks, filled with strange machines and wires. Darren said it was his research space. "I used to work on advanced biotech," he explained. "Now I build tools that can heal." Mira listened with interest. She had always liked machines and how things worked, but something was odd. When Darren moved through the rooms, his chair floated without sound. But a few times, Mira caught him shifting in a way that didn't seem natural for someone who had no control over his legs. Once, when she dropped a pen, he bent down and grabbed it so fast, Mira barely saw the motion. His hand had moved faster than any normal human. He handed it to her with a smile. "Old pilot reflexes," he joked. She laughed politely but felt unsure. That night, Mira went back to her room and sat by the window. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "What are you hiding, Darren?" Over the next few days, preparations for the wedding continued. AI assistants brought her dress choices. Holographic invitations were sent across planets. The guest list included scientists, diplomats, and even a few space explorers. Darren had lived a quiet life in recent years, but now the whole world would see him again. Mira tried to stay focused on the wedding, but her mind kept going back to the little things. Every day, she noticed something new. One morning, she walked into the music room. Darren was standing at the piano. Yes, standing. He was playing a soft melody. His back was turned. She froze in the doorway. Before she could say anything, he suddenly leaned forward, grabbed the chair behind him, and quickly sat down as if nothing had happened. "You like music?" he asked, smiling. "Yes," she replied slowly. "I didn't know you could play." He nodded. "Music helps me think." "Even machines need music, don't they?" Mira nodded, but her heart beat faster. Why would he pretend to be in a wheelchair if he could stand? Later that day, Mira explored the estate. Alone. Darren was in a meeting with someone through Holocall, so she decided to walk the halls. The house was huge. Most rooms responded to her voice. She tried doors gently. Some opened. Some didn't. She entered a hallway she hadn't seen before. The lights were dim. At the end was a sealed metal door with glowing blue lights on its edges. Above it was a label, Biosync Lab, Level 3 Access Only. Mira tried to open it. A scanner appeared, blinking red. Access denied. But then, to her surprise, the light turned green for just 1 second. The door unlocked and opened. Few inches. She saw dark shapes inside tubes, wires, and a glowing sphere in the center of the room. Before she could step in, the door shut tight again. "Access denied," the voice repeated. Mira stood frozen. Why would a guest room allow her brief access to a locked lab? What was in there? That evening, she confronted Darren. They sat in the garden, stars shining above them. The soft sound of moving water came from the fountain nearby. "Darren," she said, "why did you tell me you couldn't walk?" He looked at her quietly. "I saw you at the piano." Darren didn't deny it. He sighed. "I was going to tell you, just not yet." "Tell me what?" she asked softly. He looked up at the stars. "I had an accident. That part is true. I was close to death, but instead of letting go, I joined a secret medical project. They repaired my body, but not the normal way. They used tech that isn't public yet. It's part of something bigger, something I wanted to finish before I explained everything." Mira stared at him. "So, you're not disabled?" "Not anymore," he said. "But I lived in the chair for a long time. I still use it, not just for others, but to keep balance between the tech inside me and the world around me." Mira tried to understand. "And that lab? The one with Biosync written on the door?" Darren looked at her, surprised. "You found it?" The door opened for a second. "Why did it let me in?" He nodded slowly. "Because it recognizes your pattern, your energy, your mind." She blinked. "What does that mean?" Darren stood up from the chair. His movement was smooth, almost too perfect. "It means you're more important to this project than you know." Mira's world turned upside down. She had come here thinking she would marry a kind, disabled man. But now she stood face to face with someone who wasn't fully human anymore, someone hiding powerful technology, secret labs, and strange systems that recognized her for unknown reasons. She didn't know what to feel. Was this a lie? Or something far greater? As she walked back to her room, her heart was full of questions. She touched the silver necklace Darren had given her. The star-shaped gem blinked faintly, almost like it was alive. She whispered, "What are you, Darren Vale?" And deep down, she knew the wedding would not go as planned. The day after Mira saw Darren stand, the estate felt different. The halls were the same. The air still smelled of clean flowers. The robots still moved quietly across the floor. But something inside Mira had changed. She no longer looked at Darren the same way. Before, she saw a kind, brilliant man who had lost his strength in an accident. Now she saw a man hiding something powerful, something too big for normal life. She wanted to trust him. But trust needed truth, and Mira had seen too many lies already. While Darren was busy preparing for the wedding ceremony, Mira decided to explore again. She moved through the long silver halls, past doors that whispered open at her presence. The estate was like a living machine, responding to her voice, her steps, even her thoughts. She returned to the secret hallway, the one that had the locked door marked Biosync Lab, Level 3 access only. When she reached the door, the lights blinked again. For a second, the scanner turned green, then red. Access denied, the voice said. Mira stared at it. Why does it open for me, even a little? She whispered. Suddenly, a small square panel on the wall beside the door slid open. A glowing button appeared inside, blinking slowly. Mira hesitated, then pressed it. The wall didn't open, but a hidden compartment beneath the floor clicked open. Inside was a small silver device. Mira picked it up. It was round, flat, and pulsing with soft light. The moment she touched it, a quiet voice spoke. In her ear, "Welcome, Mira Lane, neural pattern confirmed." She froze. The device was reading her brain signals without any wires. Why does this estate know me? She asked the air. The voice continued. Access granted to Project Eco MK9. Observation mode. Then the device glowed brighter. A small hologram appeared above it. Mira watched as moving images floated in front of her, recordings of Darren, standing inside a lab, speaking to scientists. He was talking about neural merge, synthetic memory, and something called the Eco Core. She listened closely. The human brain can only go so far, Darren's voice said. But with the Eco Core, we can store thought outside the body and return it when needed. No more death from brain damage. No more forgetting. Memory becomes eternal. Another voice asked, "But who will test it?" Darren replied, "I will." And one other. The video stopped. Mira's hands trembled. One other? Who was it? Her. She placed the device back and closed the floor panel. Her mind raced. She walked quickly through the estate, heart pounding. She needed answers. Later, at lunch, she sat across from Darren at the long glass table. He smiled as always, but now she noticed how still his eyes were. Too perfect. Too calm. "Darren," she said, "what is Project Eco?" He looked at her for a long time, then sighed. "I was going to tell you after the wedding," he said softly, "but maybe you deserve to know now." He touched his wrist. A small disc floated out from under the table and projected. A glowing screen in the air. The title read, Project Eco MK9, Memory, Mind, Machine. He explained, years ago, Darren had been part of a team that worked on the next step of human evolution. The body could heal, but the brain was fragile. So they designed a system that could copy and store thought, emotion, and memory in an artificial core. That core was called Echo. "I died during the asteroid accident," Darren said. "But before my brain shut down, the Eco Core recorded my mind. The body you see now was repaired. My legs work again. But more than that, part of me exists beyond this body now." Mira was speechless. "So you're not just you?" "I'm still Darren," he said, "but I'm more. And I didn't want to go through this alone. That's why I searched." Mira leaned forward. "Searched for what?" Darren met her eyes. "For someone like you." Mira stood up from the table and walked to the window. Her mind was spinning. "You brought me here because you want me to be part of this." "Yes," he said. "Not because of your looks, not because of your voice, but because of your mind. I've watched your work, Mira. You fix broken systems with simple tools. You solve problems with patience. That's rare. That's what Eco needs." Mira turned around. "And if I say no?" Darren paused. "Then the wedding stops. Everything stops. You're free to go." The words hit her hard. She wanted to believe him, but part of her wondered, was this really love? Or was she just a piece of a bigger machine? That night, Mira couldn't sleep. She sat near the small indoor garden, looking at the stars through the glass ceiling. She thought of her home on New Avalon. The quiet fields, the old machines, the small life she had known. And now, here she was, at the center of something vast. And strange. She held the star-shaped necklace in her hand. It blinked softly, like it was alive. She whispered, "Why me?" A voice behind her answered, "Because you're the only one who could understand what comes next." She turned. Darren stood there, without his chair. No machines, no guards. Just him. "I was afraid you'd leave," he said. "I still might," Mira replied. He nodded. "If you do, I let you go. No force, no pressure." She looked at him closely. For the first time, she saw fear in his eyes. Real fear, not of losing the project, but of losing her. And something in her heart changed. He wasn't just a machine. He wasn't just a rich man playing games. He was someone who had suffered, someone who had lost part of himself and rebuilt it. Not to become powerful, but to survive. Maybe that was something Mira could understand. The next day, final wedding. Plans moved forward. The guest list was confirmed. The Space Dome was prepared. The AI orchestra practiced Earth's old love songs. But Mira didn't think about the flowers or the dress anymore. She was thinking about the lab, the device, and the echo core. And deep in her heart, she knew the wedding would bring more than vows. It would reveal the truth. Whatever happened next, she had to be ready. The sky above the estate was clear and blue. Artificial birds flew through the trees. Gentle music played through the halls. It was the wedding day. Mira stood in front of a large mirror inside her dressing room. She wore a soft silver dress, one that shimmered like moonlight. The star-shaped necklace Darren had given her sat at the center of her chest, glowing softly. She looked beautiful, but her heart was not calm. Outside, hundreds of guests arrived through flying cars and shuttle pods. Famous names from Earth and beyond stepped into the estate. Diplomats from the Mars Council, inventors from the Belt Colonies, and explorers from deep space had all come to witness the wedding of Darren Vale. But none of them knew the full truth. Mira took a deep breath. This was more than a wedding. It was the start of something bigger, something that could change everything. Meanwhile, in the central dome, Darren stood waiting. He wore a black suit with smooth silver lines running through the fabric. He sat in his floating chair again, quiet and still, as if trying to stay part of the old world for one last time. AI drones moved across the floor, arranging seats and guiding guests. The dome ceiling showed a sky full of stars, even though it was still daytime outside. It was one of Darren's favorite tricks, making the roof look like space itself. A soft voice whispered in his ear from a small implant. "Systems ready. Project eco-synchronization complete. Awaiting your command." Darren closed his eyes. Not yet. He wanted to wait until the moment was right. Mira was guided to the hall by two soft gliding assistants. As she walked through the main corridor, the walls showed memories, short clips of her and Darren from their calls, their walks in the garden, and their quiet talks. Guests turned to watch her. Some gasped, some smiled. All eyes were on her now. She stepped into the central dome. The music stopped. She walked slowly toward Darren, who was still seated in the chair. But something in his eyes had changed. Mira reached him. He looked up, and for a moment, they were the only two people in the world. The ceremony began. A hologram priest floated above them, reciting ancient earth vows. "Do you, Darren Vale, choose Mira Lane as your life partner?" The priest asked. "I do," Darren replied, his voice calm and clear. "And do you, Mira Lane, choose Darren Vale as your life partner?" Mira looked at him. Her heart said yes. Her mind said wait. But in the end, she spoke from the heart. "I do." The guests clapped softly. Music rose again, but before the vows were finished, the ground shook slightly. The ceiling changed, the stars above shifted, and the lights around the dome began to spin. Gasps filled the air. from beneath the platform. The floor opened. A glowing sphere rose into the air behind Darren. Wires moved like vines. Lights circled around it. The air buzzed with energy. The echo core had awakened. Darren stood up from the chair. He stood tall, strong and proud. Some guests gasped. Some stood in shock. He raised one hand. "Please do not be afraid," he said. "I am not a threat." The thumfa. Music stopped. Silence fell across the room. Darren turned to Myra. "I didn't want to lie," he said. "But I needed time. Time to finish the work. Time to understand if this was the right path." Myra looked up at him, her face calm. "You chose today to reveal everything?" "Yes," he said. "Because today is not just about love. It's about trust. It's about truth." He turned to the guests. "I was once a man broken by a mission gone wrong. I lost my body, but not my mind. Scientists gave me a second chance. Not just to walk, but to be more. The echo core behind me holds a full copy of my thoughts, my memories, my dreams." The room was quiet. "I am still Darren Vale, but I am also something new, a bridge between man and machine." The guests whispered among themselves. Some were amazed, some looked afraid. Others simply watched. Myra stepped closer to Darren. "Why did you build all this?" she asked. "Why keep it hidden?" "Because I wasn't sure if the world was ready. I wasn't even sure if I was ready. But then I met you." He reached for her hand. "You made me feel human again." At that moment, the echo core behind him began to glow brighter. A new voice filled the air. Second neural match detected. "Myra Lane, signal confirmed." Everyone turned. "What's happening?" Myra asked. Darren looked surprised. "I don't. No, the system was only supposed to respond to me." The core spoke again. "Observation complete. Synchronization with subject Myra Lane, 87%. The guests gasped again. Myra stepped back. "What does this mean?" Darren looked at her with wide eyes. You were never just a visitor," he whispered. "The system has been watching you, learning from you. Maybe it chose you." Suddenly, the floor lit up with new symbols. A second platform rose beside the echo core. It was smaller, with a silver ring around it. A soft path of light led from Myra's feet to the platform. The core spoke once more. "Subject Myra Lane. Co-pilot option available. Step forward to accept." The whole room froze. Myra's heart raced. Darren looked at her. "You don't have to do this." Myra looked at the path of light. Her mind raced back through everything. The messages, the lab, the device, the necklace, the stars above her colony. She had always wanted more, not for power, but to understand. To help, to explore. She looked back at Darren. "Will I still be me?" She asked. "Yes," he said. "But more." She nodded slowly, then she stepped forward. The light grew brighter. As she reached the platform, the ring around it rose and spun once around her. A soft pulse filled the air. Her necklace glowed brightly, then dimmed. The platform lowered again. Myra stepped down, but now she felt different. She could hear data. She could feel movement in the floor. She knew where every guest was in the room, even without looking. She looked at Darren. He smiled. "You're ready." The wedding was complete, but it was no longer just a wedding. It was the beginning of a new kind of partnership between two people, between human and machine, between old dreams and new futures. And as the guests stood, silent in awe, the stars above the dome shimmered. The wedding had ended, but the real journey had just begun. Myra sat quietly in a round glass room at the top of the estate tower. She stared at the stars, but she wasn't just looking anymore. She could feel them. Something had changed inside. She was still Myra Lane. She still remembered her childhood on New Avalon, her work as an engineer, her first call with Darren. But now she also felt something new. Her thoughts moved faster. Her memory was sharper. She could sense signals in the air, the hum of machines below the floors, and the soft pulse of energy in the walls. She was connected to something larger. Darren entered the room and sat across from her. "Do you feel it?" he asked. "Yes," Mira said. "Everything is louder, but clearer." He nodded. "The echo core didn't change you. It just unlocked the part of you that was always ready. You've joined the network now. You can connect, understand, even command if you choose to." Mira looked at her hands. They looked the same. But when she waved her fingers slightly, the lights in the room responded. The window tint changed. The table adjusted height. "I didn't do that with a command," she said. Double quotes, "No, you did it with thought," Darren replied. He guided her to a new part of the estate. Beneath the estate grounds, hidden deep under the surface, was a massive hangar. Mira had seen many machines in her life, but nothing like this. A massive ship stood before her. It was sleek, black-silver, shaped like a bird in flight, with glowing lines running across its body. Its name was written in clear letters near the front, Project Legacy. "This is the real reason I built all of this," Darren said. "A ship designed for more than travel. It can study, protect, rebuild, and go far beyond known space." Mira stepped closer. The ship responded. A ramp extended on its own. "It knows me?" she asked. "It knows you now," Darren said, "because you are part of the system." Inside the ship, Mira saw rooms filled with advanced tools, floating displays, and deep learning networks. The central chamber had 2 seats, pilot and co-pilot. Darren sat in the first. Mira walked toward the second dot. As soon as she touched the chair, a light scanned her body. "Welcome, Mira Lane," a soft voice sighed. System synchronized. In her mind, she saw thousands of paths, maps of stars, unexplored zones, warnings, messages left by old Earth ships that had never returned. "This ship is alive," she whispered. "Not alive like us," Darren said, "but it listens. It grows with us." Over the next few days, Darren trained Mira to control her new abilities. She learned to connect with machines using only her thoughts. She could access locked files, repair broken drones, and even fly small craft with her mind. But this power came with questions. One evening, while resting in the garden, Mira asked, "Am I still fully human?" Darren looked at her gently. "You are." Nothing was removed. Nothing was erased. "We only added a layer like glasses for the mind. You're more aware now. That's all." "But it feels like I'm changing," Mira said. "You are," he replied, "and that's not a bad thing." One morning, as they prepared for a short test flight in Project Legacy, the estate systems gave an alert. Unknown signal detected. Source: Outer Zone. Code: Emergency. Mira opened the map with her thoughts. A red dot blinked near the edge of the solar system. "It's a distress signal," she said. "One of the old mining ships. It's been lost for 10 years. Darren's face turned serious. "That ship was from the same line that caused my accident." "Should we answer it?" Mira asked. Darren looked at her. "What do you feel?" Mira closed her eyes. She focused on the signal. The message was simple. Help. Systems failing. No escape. Mira opened her eyes. "We go." Project Legacy lifted from the estate quietly. Its engines didn't roar, they hummed. In moments, the ship rose into the sky and vanished into space through a light gate. Inside, Mira felt calm. The stars weren't just points in the sky anymore. She felt them like old friends. The ship responded to her every thought. Within hours, they reached the outer zone. The lost mining ship drifted near a cold asteroid belt. Lights blinking weakly. Mira scanned it from a distance. "There's one person alive," she said. "Cryosleep. Power low. No fuel." Darren piloted the ship closer. Prepare the docking arm. Mira reached out with her thoughts, and the ship extended a bridge, locking gently to the mining vessel. Inside the damaged ship, the air was thin. Walls were cracked. Most systems were dead. Mira and Darren found the cryopod. Inside was a young man, barely older than Mira. His breathing was weak, but he was alive. They transferred him to Project Legacy's med-room. Mira watched as the auto healers worked. Why would someone be out here? For 10 years, she asked. Darren checked the pod data. He was left behind during a cargo jump. System error. Mira's voice grew firm. They left him to die. Darren looked at her. We won't, she said. Later, after the young man had stabilized, Mira sat near the viewing window. She stared at the stars again, but this time she saw something new. The universe was not just full of wonders, it was also full of pain, of forgotten people, of mistakes. And now she could help. This was more than a ship, more than a new mind. It was a mission. As Project Legacy returned home, Darren turned to her. You handled that well, he said. You trusted yourself. That's the key, Mira nodded. I thought I was just going to marry a rich man, he laughed. And I thought I'd spend my life hiding in a chair. They both smiled. But look at us now, Mira said. We're just getting started. Project Legacy returned to the estate quietly, like a shadow returning to its home. Mira felt different now. She had saved a life. She had seen what the forgotten edges of space could become: cold, silent places where people vanished without a trace. But she had also seen something else. Responsibility. The echo core inside her was not just a gift. It was a duty. She was more than just Darren's partner now. She was a protector. 3 days after the rescue, the young man they saved, his name was Rilo, finally woke up. Mira was the first to greet him. She brought warm soup and a soft blanket. He looked tired but grateful. Where am I? Rilo asked. You're safe, Mira said gently. We found you on your ship. You were in cryo for 10 years. His eyes widened. 10 years? They left me? Mira nodded slowly. Yes, but you're not alone anymore. Rilo sat back in silence. There were no tears, only quiet shock. Sometimes pain didn't scream, it whispered. Darren watched from a screen nearby. He liked how Mira handled the situation. Calm, respectful kind. She was growing fast. Later, they met in the control chamber. There's something strange, Darren said, pointing at the data. Right after we rescued Rilo, this signal spiked near the old mining zone. Mira frowned. What kind of signal? A trace echo. Almost like someone was watching from a distance. And they tried to follow us. Mira blinked. They followed. Project Legacy? Yes, but they didn't succeed. We cloaked before the gate. They couldn't track us all the way. Still, Mira said, someone knows we were there. That night, Mira couldn't sleep. She walked through the quiet hallways of the estate, thinking, what if someone dangerous knew about Project Legacy? What if they knew about the Eco Core? She stepped into the garden. The stars blinked above her. Suddenly, a soft beep echoed from her inner mind. A private message through the core link. Incoming. Drone, not registered. Speed, high. Location, outer perimeter. Mira tensed. She reached out mentally to the security grid. She felt the cameras shift, the turrets rise silently. She locked on the drone. It was sleek, black, fast. Scan complete. Military origin. Not from Earth government. Unknown faction. Mira acted. Disable it, she thought. A quiet flash. A pulse from the estate shield. The drone fell gently, like a leaf. By morning, Mira and Darren examined the wreckage. It had no markings, no serial. But it had one clear signal code buried deep. Verix Syndt. Darren's face grew serious. They're back. Who are they? Mira asked. A private group, not legal. They sell Old tech, steal from graveyards, and trade mines. They've tried to steal Echo before. Mira felt a chill. And now they know we've made it work, Darren nodded. They will come, not in peace. They had to move quickly. Project Legacy was hidden again. Its systems were upgraded with extra shielding. Mira began training harder, learning not only how to control machines, but how to defend systems from intrusions. She practiced daily in the simulation hall. Drones came from all sides. She stopped them with her mind. She redirected power grids, locked doors, and scanned enemy signals in seconds. But she also knew something else. This was not just about machines. They would come for people too. Mira visited Relo again. You said your ship was left behind. She said, but did you ever hear strange messages before that? He nodded slowly. Yes, just before we jumped. A message cut through our system. A voice said, Echo belongs to all. Give it up or be forgotten. Mira stared. That voice was a threat. It meant Virex had been chasing eco-technology for years. The next day, the attack came, early morning. Quiet winds. Then dash boom. An energy pulse hit the estate shield. Mira jumped from her desk. They've arrived. The system said calmly. Mira ran to the control tower. From the window, she saw 5 black ships hovering over the edge of the property. They were shaped like insects, sharp and armored. Drones spilled from their bays like angry bees. Darren joined. Her, we fight, not with weapons, he said, but with will. Mira nodded. She stepped into the pilot chamber. She placed her hand on the console. Project Legacy. Activate cloak. Scan for weak points. The ship responded instantly. In her mind, Mira saw glowing red dots. Drone leaders, communication. Towers, engine cores. She whispered. Strike only what we must. The battle was fast and quiet. Mira disabled drone after drone with silent commands. The estate's defense grid reacted to her thoughts. Turrets moved in harmony. Shields bent and flexed. Drones crashed into the soil like broken toys. But the lead ship didn't retreat. It sent one final drone, Silver, and fast straight toward the estate's main core. Darren shouted, They're aiming for the core. Mira closed her eyes. Stop it. Everything slowed in her mind. She reached the drone's signal. It was strong, coded, protected. She broke through. You do not belong here, she whispered in thought. The drone paused, then exploded midair. Before touching the core, silence returned. Smoke drifted above the garden. The estate still stood. Project Legacy was untouched. Mira stood on the balcony and looked out. They had tried to take her power, but she wasn't just a girl from New Avalon anymore. She was a guardian now. Later that evening, Mira and Darren sat beside the small pond in the inner garden. You fought well, Darren said. I didn't want to, Mira replied. But I had to. That's what strength means, he said. Not wanting power but using it when it's needed. Mira stared at the stars. They'll come again, won't they? Yes, Darren said. They always do. Mira stood up. Then we'll be ready. A week had passed since the attack. The estate was quiet again. Drones were repaired, shields reset, and systems cleaned. But inside Mira, there was no calm. She knew the battle wasn't over. The Varrock Syndicate had left one message behind. Not in sound, but in code. It had been hidden in the silver drone that exploded near the core. Mira found it the day after, while scanning the system logs. It was short. Meet me at the ruins of Delta 9. Come alone, or Echo will fall. Mira showed it to Darren. He read it silently, then nodded. It's a trap. I know, Mira said. But I have to go. Darren didn't argue. He looked at her with calm respect. Then take Project Legacy. Don't go as prey. Go as a storm. The next day, Mira left. She flew the ship herself. The journey to Delta 9 took 4 hours. It was an old space station abandoned after a mining accident 20 years ago. Now it drifted in silence between two moons, broken and forgotten. But someone was there. As Mira approached, she saw a ship waiting, long and black with red stripes along its wings. The Virax symbol glowed on its hull. Mira landed on the top deck of the ruined station. She stepped out alone. Her boots echoed on metal. A figure stood ahead in the shadows. Tall, cloaked, face hidden. "You came," the figure said. His voice was deep, smooth, and strange. "Who are you?" Mira asked. "I am called Virel. I lead what your people call the Syndicate." "Why did you attack us?" "Because you made it work," he said calmly. "You brought Echo back to life. And that power doesn't belong to one person. It doesn't belong to you either." Virel chuckled. "Oh, I never wanted to own it. I wanted to release it. Share it. Let all humans connect through thought and machine. But your master, your husband be ... He hides it behind walls." Mira's hands tightened. "He protects it. He locks it." Mira stepped closer. "What do you want from me?" Virel took off his hood. His face was metal smooth silver, with eyes that glowed blue. "But not like a robot. Like something ... different. You're not human," Mira whispered. "I was once," Virel said. "Until I joined the system fully, I gave up my body. I became Echo, but the early versions were unstable. I survived, but I changed." Mira stared. "You're part machine?" "No, I am mind only now," he said. "My thoughts live in the net. I speak through this shell. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I see the same path in you." Virel pointed to her head. "You have the core. You can feel signals. Read thoughts, speak without sound. But you are still limited." "I chose this," Mira said. Virel nodded. "Then choose one more thing. Join me. Let us free the Eco Core. Let every human link minds. End lies, end war, end fear." Mira stepped back. "No, that kind of power is too dangerous. Only if you fear it," Virel said. "But fear is for the past. You are the future." Suddenly, Mira's core pulsed. A signal entered her mind. Virel was trying to connect, trying to show her his world. For a moment, Mira saw everything. She stood in a space of light and data. Strings of memories flowed around her. Cities without sound. People sharing thoughts. No talking, no lies, only pure truth. It was peaceful. But then shadows. Minds trapped in loops. People losing themselves. Ideas stolen. Identities fading. Too much connection. Too little choice. Mira pulled back. "No," she said, shaking. "That's not peace. That's control." Virel stepped forward. "Then you are not ready. But one day you will be." Mira looked at him with calm anger. "I'll protect Echo. I'll protect people from this." "Then we are enemies," he said quietly. Mira raised her hand. "Project Legacy, shield me, lock target." Virel smiled sadly. "I won't fight you, not today. You still have time." And just like that, his body turned into silver dust and vanished, back on Earth. Mira returned to the estate. She told Darren everything. He listened without interrupting. Then he said, "You saw it, the danger of perfect connection." Mira nodded. "It was beautiful ... and terrifying." "People need space to be themselves," Darren said. "Not every thought should be shared. Not every mind should be open." Mira looked at the stars. "He'll come again, with more force, with more ideas. Then we'll be ready." The estate changed after that. Project Legacy became more than a ship. It became a shield for Earth. Mira led a small group of minds like her, humans who could link with machines, not to control, but to protect. They trained quietly, helped people, stopped threats, and kept watch. The world never knew their full names. But when disasters happened, when old tech awakened, or strange signals echoed through space, they were there. Years later, people would tell stories of a woman with quiet eyes and strong hands, who flew a ship no one could catch, A woman who once thought she would marry a disabled millionaire, but found something far greater, that she found her purpose. And she became something no one expected, a guardian of the future.